The Rhode Island Foundation, partnering with passionate Rhode Islanders to lead, transform, and inspire our state. Learn more at rhodeislandfoundation.org.
Welcome to another segment of In Another Opinion, a public information program where our discussions are focused on the communities of color in the state of Rhode Island. I'm your host, Peter Wells. My guest today is Neil Steinberg, President and CEO of the Rhode Island Foundation. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming. I know you're a busy guy.
Great to talk.
Well, listen, for citizens who know nothing about the foundation, what's the Rhode Island Foundation about, and how does it work?
Sure. So we're 100 years old. We're 102 years old, actually. It started by a philanthropist, Jesse Metcalf, of the old Metcalf family, way back when, in 1916. And what we do are basically three things. So we work with individuals, with families, with companies, with organizations that want to give back to the community. So they establish funds with us. They're philanthropic. They want to give back either for a cause or a school or scholarships, whatever it may be. They want to give back at all sizes, and we work with them as donors. And we built up this big fund, so we have an endowment that's over $900 million.
Wow. Because
we've been around a long time and we invest pretty well. And then on the other side, we give out the money. So we're the largest funder to the nonprofit sector in Rhode Island. And we have grant people there. People apply to us for grants. Sometimes the donors designate, it goes to this church or this school or wherever, this organization. And our job is to get it out in the community. And then the third thing we do is leadership and advocacy. We get involved in key issues. We can talk about some of our priorities on behalf of the community, but we want to see things get done for a positive Rhode Island for all Rhode Islanders.
Well, I know that the foundation has always worked with nonprofits. Do you ever provide money for profit organizations?
Not really. By charter, we're supporting nonprofit organizations. We can once in a while invest in something that might be for profit, but generally it's the nonprofits who are the wonderful boots on the ground. They're the ones doing the services on the community, and we have the opportunity to help fund them.
So out of the $900 million of the foundation, what would you say would be the principal amount of that, I know it accrues interest because you're investing.
Yeah, well, that is the principal. So we keep adding to it. So we give out about 4.5% to 5% of that. So last year we gave out $43 million on that, because we earn money on that corpus, on that amount. But we generally give out 4.5% to 5%. Last year we also raised $38 million. So we both raise it, we grow it. We had a great investment return last year. This year the market's a little softer, but still positive. So between donations, investing, that builds it up, and then we give out grants, and that keeps it going forever. We're built to stick around forever.
Geez, I'd like to meet your investment officer. Obviously, he or she is doing a great job.
When you're large, you can be diversified, and we're the ultimate long term. So we're not worried about blips in the market. We're looking for the long term. But again, our goal is not to make money, it's to earn, to put out in the community.
Well, community, a good word right into this segue. Yeah. Can you give me some ideas of some of the successes that the foundation has had in terms of grant dollars and community activity?
Yeah, sure. So our successes are other people's successes, either individuals or organizations. Our top priorities for our funding right now is economic security. So how can people be on their own? How can they get job training? How can they get employment? How can they run their small business? K through 12 education. You know, we need to be better at educating every person in this state, every child in the state. And then healthcare, availability and affordability of healthcare. So those are our top three. So whether we're funding programs in education to improve principals or to train English language learners or whatever, those type of programs. On the economic security side, we just put together a website, BizBuilder, ribizbuilder.com, that is for small businesses throughout the state to access resources. Big businesses know where to get things. Small businesses don't always do that. Investing in job training programs, again, for all different communities throughout the state. And then on healthcare, it's got to be affordable and accessible. You know, one of the challenges that you well know is too many times a child's education attainment their healthcare attainment, their professional attainment is dictated by the zip code they live in, and we need to change that. So those are the type of things. We still fund the arts, we still fund the environment, human services, we do fund the safety net, the food bank, and other type of agencies. So we're pretty broad, but we want to see long-term positive change for everybody.
Is the access, well, let's say a nonprofit wanted to come in and make, is all that on the computer?
Yeah, it's all online. So you go on our website, rifoundation.org. You could see the different types of grants that we give out, different categories. It'll give you a directory. You can call somebody, call me if you want, and I'll direct you. And it's the same thing for scholarships. We do, over 150 scholarships a year, different funds. And people should go on there. You were kind enough in the paper to really highlight a premier one that we have, the Roger Williams scholarships, where we gave out 6 or 7 scholarships of $15,000 to $20,000, primarily in the communities of color to people, and I call them kids all the time at all ages now that I get older, to give them a chance to go places they wouldn't normally get to go.
Now, does that, let's talk about those particular scholarships. Does that come from any particular pot, like from the Black Philanthropy Fund, or does it come from just the general fund?
Right. So that particular one came from a very philanthropic family, the Carters, John Carter, who passed away last year, his wife Letitia, and they set up a fund. It was their idea to give out these scholarships. So what we do for them is we're the repository for the funds, we manage the funds, and we run the program. So we had a couple hundred applicants, and we screen them and have a committee to select them, but it was their philanthropy that did that. And that's the way a lot of our things are. Some of it's out of our discretionary money. People have left us money to do whatever we think the priorities are. Some of it by generous donors. You mentioned the Black Philanthropy Fund. So we, it was the late Walter Stone who conceived of this idea with many other important people in the Black community, and Judge Clifton and Linda Newton and Beverly Ledbetter, who got together and raised money. Now it's the Black Philanthropy Bannister Fund, because we got some funding after the Bannister House property was sold. And it is now dedicated to the Black community and to giving out grants. So there's a committee that we help run. There's a process where once a year organizations can apply. And then we, with that committee from the community, decide where the grants go.
And I was fortunate enough to participate in the very beginning of the development of the Black Philanthropy Fund, when Walter was still with us.
Right.
And we had 3 Cliftons at that time.
Yes, I know
initially.
that. Right, that's right. Right, and that was wonderful because, boy, to us, philanthropy, which is a fancy sounding word, is giving back. It's not just giving.
Yeah.
It's giving back. It's where did you come from? Who helped you? Was it the Boys and Girls Club? Was it the Y? Was it a teacher? Was it a community group? And when you have the ability, and ability does not mean great wealth. Ability means whatever is ability to you to give back to the community. And so we're very fortunate, and still are, to have people who feel that way. We need to bring along the next generation to do that.
Wow, I mean that's a big operation. But and then the tentacles, as you mentioned, the different categories that generally, are there any unusual categories?
Yeah, so if you look carefully, again, we're there to provide accessibility for different groups and individuals, and also to steward the donors. So we have a lot of funds that go to support dogs and cats because people pass away and they decide they want to do that. And I think at one time we had a fund for parrots or something like that.
Wow.
So they're not necessarily odd, but they're focused sometimes. We have funds for medical research at different diseases, things like that. We have them for different locations. It might be northern Rhode Island, it might be southern Rhode Island that people feel very strongly about. So we blend both making the donors' wishes come true. What do they want to give back? What do they want to see happen with what the needs are in the community, and push the needs in the community.
Neil, what would you say the average amount of new money coming into the foundation would be? Is it on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, in an aggregate, we average about $35 million a year.
Wow.
That comes in. Now that's organizations, individuals, families. Could be up one year, down another, but that's about what we we've been averaging, and we want to do more. You know, when we talk about it, I have this big sign up in my office: if we raise more money, we can do more good. It's that simple. And the we is all of we in Rhode Island, and we feel very strongly about being here for everybody in Rhode Island. We like to think that our grant making, our ability to get the money out, touches all 1 million people in the state.
Oh, I'm sure it does. And so how do you actually raise money? I mean, I guess that's
the old-fashioned way. Yeah, the old-fashioned way. We're out there. You know, we're talking with individuals. Sometimes they'll approach us. Sometimes we'll talk to them. We're talking to companies. We're talking to professional advisors, accountants, and attorneys that advise their clients. But it really is just somebody gets inspired in many cases. They don't know how to do it. We help them do it. And again, it does not have to be great wealth. It can be money of any size to our existing funds. It could be to start new funds, but it's a one-on-one. It's not a mass mail, retail business. Okay. We're out there talking to individuals, trying to be part of the community.
Wow. You know, that seems like a daunting task to me. I mean, asking people for money or trying to solicit money is a difficult situation.
Yeah, you know, some people like it, some people don't. I worked at Brown University, I mentioned to you before, and I worked for a great college president, Ruth Simmons, when she was there. And people used to ask her all the time, President Simmons, don't you hate asking for money? And her answer very quickly was no. She didn't hate asking for money because it wasn't for her. It was for the students. Sure. So it's the same with us. I'll ask anybody for anything to support good causes because, you know, it might not be the right time for them. And but you introduce them, and it's really giving them an opportunity. It's not arm twisting. It's giving somebody the opportunity to give back, to be involved, to support something that they're passionate about. And it's all about the Rhode Island community.
So it's not a one-time deal. So if an organization were lucky enough to receive a grant one year, they could come back in another year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really, you know, kind of merit-based. If you're doing good work and you can show outcomes and you can show that you're helping people and you can get to scale, we're looking also for new ideas. There's always that balance of the need to fund good organizations that are ongoing and then somebody that's doing something new. And, you know, there's never enough money, so that's why we're trying to just build up that philanthropic base.
Are there limitations to, when I say limitations, I'm sure there's some, but for instance, is it funding for capital investment into organizations, or is it operational funding?
It's a good question. So we generally do operations and program, current use funding. We generally don't do capital for a couple of reasons, most of which that eats up a lot of money real quickly. We've got the wonderful Champlin Foundation in Rhode Island that is almost exclusively capital projects, and so we refer back and forth. But ours is primarily to run programs, to start programs, and to pay operating expenses of the nonprofits. We also have a program, our initiative for nonprofit excellence, that we've been doing about 9 years or 10 years, where we help build the capacity of the organizations themselves. So in order for us and other people to fund these organizations, they have to stick around. So they have to know how to organize, how to do their financing, and how to raise money. So we will help organizations do that too.
So for an organization to apply, they should probably be on top of their game, at least in terms of their finances.
Right, correct.
Maybe have a business plan.
Correct.
That's maybe specific to what they're asking the foundation for.
Good leadership.
Leadership,
know what they're doing, good governance, have a board that's active. Yeah, you need all of those. So you want to see something that's sustainable. You don't want to fund a program that's not going to be around next year. So while these are nonprofits, they still need to show that they can have a bottom line that's positive that keeps them going. So we try to help them with that on the business side, on the fundraising side, on the governance side.
I think there's a lot of people who, in my experience, talking with folks, confuse the fact that a nonprofit means they can't make money. But, you know, I suggested to them, well, how do you stay alive if you don't make money?
Absolutely correct. The term profit, you know, if you've been in the business community, is not a bad term. I mean, it gets abused all over the place, but it's not bad. It really simply means that your expenses are less than the revenue that you bring in, and you get to hang around another year. But you're right, if you lose money, so to speak, because you think that's what nonprofits do, you just won't be around. So it's a balance.
Is there any a mechanism for people to, individuals to make donations? Let's say, you know, how the United Way used to work. You had a number, and you could have your payroll deducted to that number each month or something.
Yeah.
Is there any kind
We're a little different. So people can, if you looked on our website, you'd see all the funds. So let's say there's a fund for an organization. If you want to give to that fund, we'll take any amount. What we don't do, though, is the thousands and thousands and thousands of contributions that just go in different places without being a little more focused. But you can be focused as long as they have a fund with us. You can do that. We also have a civic leadership fund where we started. It's an annual fund we started 5 years ago because we do a lot of leadership type activities. We convene groups that, including one that you participated in that we can talk about. We do research. We try and get things pushed for education, for healthcare, for the community. And that annual fund, people can give at any size, that civic leadership fund, contributions of any size, and we encourage those.
Geez, I'm going to have to get a link for the newspaper website, at least for the application process, so that, because I talk to a lot of small businesses. I mean, and small businesses who have been around for maybe 2 or 3 years, quietly doing what they do.
Right, right.
But not realizing that they could benefit by.
Yeah, so they can't get grants because they're generally for profit, but they can contribute, and then this ribizbuilder.com, great for them to look at all the different business services that are available to them. It's really just a communications vehicle to get it out.
You know, another issue that a lot of people who want to start an organization, a nonprofit, or a business for that matter, don't realize they have to go down to the Secretary of State's office. They have to go to the FDF, to the IRS, and get all the appropriate numbers. And again, I'm sure that's part of the application process.
It's also a great point because it really, starting a nonprofit is like starting a small business. A lot of the same attributes. It would just take the opportunity that before people start a nonprofit, check around, make sure there's not 10 other already doing that.
Sure.
We have a lot of duplication in the state. We have a lot of organizations that are doing the same or related that could collaborate more. We're sometimes a little too balkanized in this little state of ours when people could work together more. We try and get them to do that.
I was going to say, do you assist with that kind of?
We try to, you know, so if you came in and we said, well, Peter, there's already 5 doing this, here they are, why don't you talk to them first? We hope that's effective. Sometimes people just want to go off on their own.
You know, when I first came here, and not only in Rhode Island, but in my travels around the country in different positions, I've watched the NAACP, the Urban League, and in some places they had a Black United Fund. And all of these organizations, I mean, doing good work, but at some point in time, they're all doing the same thing. And I often wondered the best way to get those organizations together. Their mission statements generally are the same.
Yeah. You know, it's tough. I mean, you know, some of those organizations like the Urban League recently has had challenges here. Once was the bastion of the community. You know, it's a lot of things. People get territorial, individuals get carried away. But you're right, collaboration. We spend a lot of time putting people around a table. And I'm always amazed how many people you would think should know each other in this little state that are introducing themselves for the first time. And there's a lot of power behind getting people to collaborate and being inclusive. So too many times we'll go to a meeting and 25% of the people that should be there are not represented. And that's just not right. And it does not promote what we need to in this state.
I recently participated in a fact-finding session with Global, I guess they were on a contract with the foundation to bring some folks together from the community to discuss ways the foundation could be more effective, or where the foundation may not be getting that word out, so to speak. And there were some Latinos, there was some African Americans, there was a couple Portuguese folks, but the bottom line is, as you say, Rhode Island's a very small place, and if we can't communicate, it makes it difficult for communities to grow. Now, I know that recently you had the activity, which I even participated in, which was at Together Rhode Island. How did that work out?
It was great. You know, what was the inspiration? So a lot of the things that we do, I use the expression, are out of both inspiration and frustration. So the inspiration is we should be able to all get together and do great things together. The frustration is we don't.
Sure.
So we were really getting concerned about the lack of civic and civil dialogue, people being able to talk like we're talking now, not on social media, not throwing out fake names and fake news and calling each other names. So we decided to hold these sessions where we just wanted people to talk with each other and listen to each other. We did 20 around the state this spring from the end of March to early May. We called it Together Rhode Island. 20 locations. We got over about 1,300 people to participate. University of Rhode Island is compiling the statistics. They just finished. We're reading it right now. We'll publish all the results. We've seen some of the top line results. So it was successful. It got people to talk with each other. So you were there on one of them. We had 8 around the table. Not everybody knew each other. Talking about 3 things primarily. What are the positive and strengths of Rhode Island? What are opportunities in Rhode Island? And what are the issues in your community? 75% of the people filled out a survey that we're now analyzing to go deeper. 73%, I think it was, said that they were more likely to be active in civic engagement. 99% said they met somebody new, so that helped. And it talked about, you know, there was no yelling and screaming, and there were no people just sitting there silent. It was over a meal, which always helps when you have food, although I remember the session you came to on Saturday morning, we ran out of bacon. And I was very disturbed about that. But most of them were evening events, and all throughout the state. And so we're looking at were there unique things in part of the state. So one of the things that came up, which was fascinating to me, was the size of the state was listed by many as both a strength and an opportunity, bordering on how come we can't get our act together in this little state. You and I, from where we're sitting, in 45 minutes can go see anybody in this state.
Absolutely.
We could get our congressman here this afternoon if we needed to.
I use that as an example all the time.
We need to be able to harness that. The natural resources that we have are great. Improving public education was one of the big ones that we need to do, K through 12. On the other hand, we have great universities and colleges here that we need to leverage more. Good government, taking care of people in need, housing and transportation. A lot of things came up in these sessions that weren't designed necessarily to change our agenda, but we will put this out publicly. We will go to the governor, we will go to the speaker, we will go to the Senate president, say, here's what we heard. We'll put it out through various publications and let people know what was heard at those.
Well, it was a very smart move, and by moving it around the state, it almost forced people to come out in their communities because trying to get someone from the east side to go over to the south side doesn't work for some reason.
We'd have to provide transportation and instructions. It also, some of us learned our way in different parts of the state we'd never been to too, which was good.
That's true. Yeah,
it was good.
And you can't run out of bacon.
No, that's right. You know, we had pasta, meatballs, chicken, and salad in the evenings, and the good news was that most people liked them. The bad news was I went to all 20 and I gained 5 pounds. So it's one of the downsides. But we really did get that dialogue that we wanted.
Yes.
I don't know if we'll do it again. We may do it around topics like education, like healthcare.
Well, I think it was great.
And the vibe was good. You know, the vibe was good.
Meeting other people was also important because it afforded me the opportunity at the people at my table to make some new contacts.
Correct. Yeah.
Especially for we're following up with what they do, how they do it, how do they impact the community.
Right.
So it was, and I think as it went around the table, as we introduced ourselves, you could see the lights going on.
Yes. Yeah. No, there's just again, if we could just get big groups together, a lot of things would happen, and so that's part of what we do. We try and get people together. That aren't always at the same table, and I think that's important. We feel very strongly that one of our roles is to be a voice for the underserved communities. So not everybody has an equal access to resources or to some of the decision makers or whatever, it's very important that we both listen and then communicate what we hear.
Yeah, and there's a certain amount of trepidation, a little fear of the unknown. So a lot of folks who might be a little leery of approaching a Neil Steinberg.
Oh, I know that.
But when there's a group,
right, it's a lot easier.
Safety in numbers.
Yeah, no, that is, and the more we can get out of our building, the better. You know, one of the other things is that there are a lot of positive things going on, but we still have a lot of challenges, and we don't hear those expressed enough. So we have achievement gaps in our schools that we can't afford to have. We have inequities in access to health care that we can't afford to have. We've got the highest poverty rate in New England that we can't afford to have. So you hear about all the wonderful things, the cranes in the sky and the jobs, and those are there.
Sure.
But we need to be more inclusive. We need to make sure, the reason we don't call our initiative economic development, we call it economic security, because to me, economic security is economic development that's inclusive.
Yes.
You don't leave people out. You bring everybody with you. And that's hard work, it's grassroots in some cases, and it's systemic in other cases.
Well, Neil, this has been a very rich conversation.
Well, thank you.
But before we run out of time, is there any advice that you would give to our listeners, in terms of the better utilization of the foundation?
Yeah, so the basic thing and the easiest is to check out our website and navigate through it. Hopefully it's not that hard to do, but you'll see the types of stories that we have. We have an annual report there that talks about some of the donor stories. We have some of our blogs that talk about some of our leadership activities, and then we have a whole lot of information on how nonprofits can get grants. And again, I always mention scholarships because I know it's so expensive now for kids to go to school that they should access these wherever they can. So, and if that doesn't work, give me a call, 427-4007. I pick up the phone and I'll help you navigate it, and I'm less intimidating on the phone than you may think I am in person, but I do enjoy talking with people. I do enjoy getting out into the different communities.
Just for the record, I don't find you intimidating.
No, good, I'm not. Thanks.
But I also know that to do the kind of work that you do, you constantly have to be going, and the wheels are constantly turning.
They are.
So it makes for a different kind of presentation.
It does. As long as we keep going forward, Peter, with those wheels, we're in good shape.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Listen, we've run out of time.
Thank you for
But I want to thank today's guest, Neil Steinberg,
My pleasure.
and you, the viewers, for tuning in to another segment of In Another Opinion. A special thanks to PBS for making this program possible. I'm your host, Peter Wells, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at IA Opinion. And have a great day.
The Rhode Island Foundation, partnering with passionate Rhode Islanders to lead, transform, and inspire our state. Learn more at rhodeislandfoundation.org.